Some women reach a stage in life where opening their eyes in the morning feels heavier than closing them at night, not in a dramatic or attention seeking way, just a silent weight that settles in the chest before the day even starts. If this feels familiar, you're not imagining it. You've had mornings where you lie still, staring upward, wondering how you're supposed to do everything all over again. The world doesn't slow down. Expectations don't pause. Responsibilities keep piling up. And somehow you're expected to keep functioning on energy you don't have anymore. What makes it harder is that almost no one notices. They don't see the pressure. They don't sense the emotional load, because you've mastered the ability to keep going even when your inner world feels completely drained. The psychology of a woman who feels tired of existing is almost invisible. You can be sitting with friends, smiling, laughing, participating, while your mind feels distant, detached, elsewhere. You can perform perfectly at work, meeting deadlines, staying professional, while emotionally you feel numb, as if you're moving through a haze. You can care for others, support loved ones, manage responsibilities, and still feel deeply alone inside your own thoughts. This kind of exhaustion isn't about sleep. It's not physical tiredness. It's emotional fatigue, mental overload, spiritual depletion, a form of weariness that rest alone can't fix. For many women, this didn't start recently. It began years ago, often in childhood. Many women who feel exhausted by life today were once girls who had to grow up too soon. Maybe you were the emotional anchor in your household, the one who calmed tension, read moods, carried unspoken worries, or learned maturity early just to maintain peace. While others were allowed to fall apart, you were expected to stay steady. While others were comforted, you taught yourself how to cope. While others expressed fear, sadness, or anger freely, you learned to suppress yours, not to manipulate, but to survive. That coping pattern doesn't disappear with age, it evolves. It becomes your identity. You become the dependable one, the capable one, the woman who always manages. People slowly stop asking how you're doing because they assume you're fine. They assume strength means capacity. They assume independence means immunity. In reality, you're exhausted from holding everything together. Another layer of this exhaustion comes from emotional suppression. Women who feel tired of existing often feel like their emotions don't fit the space they're given. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being vulnerable led to misunderstanding, dismissal, or judgment. So you filtered yourself. You stayed quiet. You avoided burdening others. You minimized your pain. But every emotion you silence doesn't disappear. It stays inside. It settles. It drains you slowly until you feel empty. Life adds to this too. Maybe you did everything right. You worked hard. You sacrificed. You cared deeply. You tried to be enough. And one day, you realized there was nothing left to give. You're tired of always being strong. Tired of adapting. Tired of surviving instead of living. Tired of holding up people who might not even notice if you collapsed. Then there's emotional isolation. You can be surrounded by people, family, friends, a partner, and still feel profoundly misunderstood. Others assume your exhaustion is temporary. They suggest rest, positivity, distractions, motivation. They reduce your emotional depth into simple advice, ignoring the complexity beneath it. And that dismissal only deepens the loneliness. Over time, patterns emerge. You stop enjoying things that once excited you. Hobbies lose meaning. Social plans feel draining. Conversations feel distant. You respond with less enthusiasm, not because you don't care, but because you're depleted. You move gently, you speak softly, you remain calm, not out of peace, but because emptiness has replaced intensity. For some women, this exhaustion comes after years of emotional giving. You loved when love wasn't returned. You stayed loyal when others were careless. You showed up during other people's storms and stood alone during your own. Eventually, the emotional account runs dry. You don't lose faith in people, you lose the strength to keep trying. At home, even simple tasks feel heavy. You sit longer before starting anything. You delay chores. You tell yourself later, knowing later won't feel easier. Your mind feels slow while life keeps demanding speed. In relationships, the signs are subtle. You stop asking for support because disappointment feels predictable. You stop explaining yourself because you're tired of not being understood. You stop initiating emotional conversations because they cost more than you can afford. You still love, but you're disconnected. You don't lack care, you lack capacity. At work, you operate on autopilot. You show up, you perform, you remain reliable. But internally, you're counting minutes. The emotional effort of being productive, polite, and present feels suffocating. You feel more like a function than a human being, and that's when life starts feeling like mere existence. This state slowly reshapes how you see yourself. You begin to believe you're difficult to understand, too quiet, too emotional, too detached. Those beliefs pull you further inward, creating a cycle where exhaustion feeds isolation, and isolation feeds exhaustion. There's also a numbness that develops, not because you don't care, but because caring requires energy you no longer have. You still feel, but quietly, softly, in muted ways. Others assume you're fine because you're not reacting. They don't realize you're simply depleted. Yet, despite all of this, women who feel tired of existing often keep going. You push forward. You carry responsibilities even when they drain you. You show up to avoid consequences. You smile out of habit. You listen while longing to be heard. You give comfort while craving it yourself. You're surviving on emotional fumes. This exhaustion is layered, shaped by chronic emotional labor, unresolved wounds, caretaking roles, perfectionism, suppressed anger, loneliness, imbalance, and the habit of putting everyone else first. Beneath it all is a simple truth. You're tired because life never gave you room to rest. You've been strong for too long. Some women reach this point quietly. No breakdowns, no dramatic moments, just a gradual fading of energy, a sense of being present physically, but distant emotionally. Dreams fade, planning stops, living turns into existing, and when others react, it often makes things worse. Some dismiss your feelings, some minimize them, some call it drama, others misinterpret it as coldness or lack of gratitude. Very few recognize the quiet pain behind your eyes. Partners may misunderstand it too. They may think you've changed, grown distant, lost interest, and you may struggle to explain, not because you don't want to, but because exhaustion doesn't come with simple words. Friends may think you're withdrawing, family may think you're different, but you know the truth. This isn't personality. It's emotional fatigue built over years. Still, there's strength here. You've endured more than most people realize. You learned independence through hardship, emotional intelligence through pain, resilience through disappointment. Your exhaustion is not weakness. It's evidence of how much you've carried alone. But endurance is not the goal. You deserve rest, care, softness, understanding, balance. You deserve to feel alive, not just functional. You deserve relationships that replenish you. You deserve to be heard without judgment. You deserve comfort too. The psychology of a woman who is tired of existing isn't a story of emptiness. It's the story of someone who gave too much for too long without replenishment. And even if this exhaustion feels permanent, it isn't. It's your mind asking for healing, safety, and gentleness. If this message resonated with you, comment 100% below to confirm you received it. And for a deeper understanding of this topic, watch the recommended video on your screen now. Thank you for being here.